there. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you how I took $5,000 of savings and used that to start my grant writing consulting business in 2018. And 5 years later, that $5K became $3 million in total revenue. So $3 million sounds like a lot. Trust me, that didn't come right away. I took a massive pay cut when I left corporate, but I knew that there was more upside available to me if I was willing to bet on me. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my top 3 tips for how you can get paid to do the work you love. All right, with that, let's hit it. The challenge that you're facing, and I intimately remember what it was like, is not knowing the right time to leap or what action to take to get where you want to go, and not knowing where the time is going to come from to even make this dream happen. Time and energy. How to pay rent next month if you do this. Or you're wondering, is this idea you have even going to work? And what will others think? We get fear of failure, fear of rejection. And the best way I can describe this tipping point, it's what it's like to break up with someone. You start to get some doubts, but they're mostly sitting subconsciously. I don't want those to surface. And then the thoughts become more frequent. And you can try to squash those down, but it presents in your body falling apart. Health issues, stress. You know what I'm talking about if you've done this before. You get this just horrible bout of indecision. I also get really bad dreams. You think things will be good a little bit longer, and then they really end up becoming completely consumed by this. So if you're in that place with your career and lifestyle where this discomfort is kind of miserable, it is actually a good thing because it is an invitation to grow into your next best version of yourself. So let's talk about how we're actually going to do that. First, I'll give you a little bit of history on what my story was like. I was 27 when I left my grant writing consulting job. I've been doing that for 5 years at the time, and I pledged to straight up never write another grant again. I had this other sexy startup idea in mind, and you're gonna have to twist my arm to get me to tell you about it. Frankly, it was such a bad idea. But it gave me the confidence to say, I got something I want to pursue and I wanted to chase it. I ended up pretty quickly finding that, okay, that's not gonna work, but I know how to make money as a grant writing consultant. So I started up a business. But this time I wanted to do it on my own terms. So I wanted to make sure that I was operating a consulting business without burning out, that I could take off the afternoons and, because it's Alaska here, we don't have daylight all winter long, and go play in the afternoon. There was just a lot of things that needed to be true if I was going to get back into grant writing. That all happened. Fast forward, can give you the whole story sometime later, but essentially that ended up leading into, hey, will you teach workshops? So I really started to perfect how to teach grant writing to other people, did those in small groups and then also even larger groups, even with a crowd of 250 people, and I was teaching by myself. It was crazy. And then that eventually led into, hey, maybe I should teach this in course material. So, and others also wanted to know not only how do you become a grant writer, but how do you build a career as a grant writer? That's kind of like the whole version of what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years. So we total things up from 2018 to this year, 2023, and it's been over $3 million in revenue, which gave me this massive realization that the best possible investment we can make is in ourselves. But with that, I'm gonna dive into my top tips for how you can also turn a $5,000 or whatever, pretty low investment into whatever amount you darn well please. Like I said, my business evolved from grant consulting to literally the only thing I do right now is run the Global Grant Writing Collective. It's a program for those that are building and scaling their careers. But if you're looking for a different example, it's a different business model than full-on consulting, I want you to consider this. We've got this unicorn in our program. She joined me this time last year because we had a retreat in Sedona. She was making about $100K in revenue, and she was absolutely burning herself down, right? She had no team. She really could not earn anymore because she literally was working 60-hour weeks. She came to me in February and we looked at, okay, she already made a bunch of improvements in the last 6 months. And then we get to February or March of 2023, and she's now at her new lid, which is about $250K. She's like, okay, well, she had a pricing problem. She wasn't charging nearly enough. So we got that course corrected. And now 6 months later, she's projected to hit $480K in revenue this year. In 1 year, she went from $100K to $480K with a team of 4. And now we had a different meeting where we actually penciled out what needs to happen so she could take one of her part-time people, move them into full-time. How do we continue to get the financial health of the business further optimized and actually have less clients than she has now, but make more? And that penciling, that math that we did together of here are literally the action steps to take, will get her to $890,000 in revenue next year. So that's pretty close to being able to close the gap to $1 million with the grant consulting business. And this is someone who literally just started as a side hustle and had no idea where this was going to go. Or take Elizabeth Burrows, for instance. So I was just on a panel with her and I loved learning about her story. She is closing in on 8 figures. Y'all, that's $10 million in revenue, okay? Running a grant consulting business. Talk about a total boss. And she started it as a side hustle too. And it was just to put a little bit of extra savings into her daughter's college fund. When I tell you that like a lot is possible for you, a lot more than you even realize, I hope these stories illustrate that. But what myself, that unicorn that I'm not naming just for her own privacy, and Elizabeth and I have in common is that we have 3 principles that we're living our life by. So let's get into that. Principle number 1, invest in you. Every significant level up in revenue that I've had came from getting coached and investing in a program. So my first investment was Amy Porterfield's digital course academy. I think it was like $1,600. That took like 2 years of epically failing, trying to build a course where I made like $10,000 and turned it into $100,000 course revenue, which was sweet. My second major investment was in this other program that took us literally from $100K to $1 million in course revenue. It simplified everything. It gave me a roadmap. It showed me what the heck to do. Probably then the third investment that was like, wow, that really changed everything, was weaseling my way into this software accelerator. And we're not software, but I knew that I could learn business systems from that mentor. And that is like literally why we have SOPs and playbooks. And I'm still coaching with that guy 5 years later, right? If you've been following me, and you want to start a grant writing consulting business and you want to scale it, or you want to grow your career as an in-house nonprofit grant writer, I can be that mentor for you because I have done it before. But what I have learned, and this has been humbling because I thought I had good intuition, but the intuitive path will not get you there. This is coming from somebody that loves to bootstrap. I love to DIY it. I'm an independent chick, but you have to invest in you and here's the kicker, the mentor has been where you want to be. That's important. And I'm going to talk about that more in a moment. Principle number 2, as I'm holding up 3 fingers, get in the room. So here's an example. So recently I went to this mastermind in Canada where there were 25 people there. Only 2 of us were women. Everyone had 8-figure businesses, even 9. Some of them had multiple exits. Like these are people running $100 million companies. And here I am, just like little Meredith from Alaska, trying to hang out with the big boys, right? And I can't tell you what being in that room did for my business and for my own like personal mindset about what is possible. Like seeing what others were doing, I was like, oh, I can do this. I can do it too. And just the contacts that came from that. One of the things that emerged from that was literally working with the technologists to build our own AI co-piloting tools, which is literally custom R&D coming out of our business. And none of that would have ever happened had I not been in the room. So did I have imposter syndrome? Did I feel like I belonged there? Did I feel tongue-tied when I first showed up because it's all these like tall, like masculine dudes, and here I am basically, and I was pregnant too, like in the nauseous phase still. Like I just didn't feel, let's say, level 10 by any means, but I still got my tush in that room, and what a difference it made. And the same goes for you. You need to surround yourself with smart, inspiring, amazing people, because that whole analogy of like you are the 5 people you spend the most time with, I think it's true. And since we can't necessarily surround them in our own community, we need to also augment virtually and in other groups. Principle number 3, fail fast. You're going to do things that don't work. And the difference between my success and others that look at it from outwardly and they think, oh my gosh, it's just win after win with her. It's not so. I can just digest failures at a faster rate than most other people can, and I don't take it personally. Besides, of course, I am taking the lessons that are learned from each situation, but I'm telling you that it's not a reflection of me as a person. So Alex and I were in a mastermind recently, my co-founder, where the guest speaker said, the health of your business is reflected in how quickly you diagnose a problem and you solve it. And as we've gotten bigger, I feel like we've gotten slower in solving problems because there's more financial leeway to give people second chances or whatever. Whereas when I was in my first 100K in revenue, I had 0 room for financial error. So I had to fail really, really, really fast. If something wasn't working, I had to go in a different direction. I want you to keep that in mind, that failing fast is a good thing. Lean into it. Just digest those failures quickly. Bonus tip. Here's the one thing I wish I knew. I wish I had paid myself better earlier. I poured everything back into the business. I kept my wages super low. I made sure everyone else was taken care of, and I put myself last. Now that I know what some healthy benchmarks are for what you should be paying yourself relative to your revenue, I'm more mindful of it, and I coach on it for members in the Global Grant Writing Collective so that you're taking home 50% of your revenue up to that $250K in revenue mark, which PS, 50% of 250 is $125K in take-home pay, which is definitely a solid $80,000 over what I was getting paid at my old corporate job with little room for advancement. That's one thing I want to offer, is that you're in this not just to be a martyr, you're you're in this to be paying yourself well, you're working hard. Let's make sure you're compensating yourself appropriately. In review, my top 3 tips for getting way better returns than real estate market's gonna give you, than just putting it in a savings account under your bed, or certainly in the stock market, is number 1, invest in you. First and foremost, you invest in your skill development, invest in your network. It will come back. It is the best place you can put your money. No one can take it from you. 2, get in the room. Surround yourself with other ambitious, heart-driven people that want to make a difference and a great living doing it. Number 3, fail fast. Your failing doesn't mean you're a failure. We only fail if we're not taking courageous action. And I think just the extra little nugget I want to throw in there is only take advice from those who have gone where you want to go. Okay, so this is definitely a more unconventional video for me, but if you want things like this, let me know in the comments below. And if you're wanting to start a grant writing career and just do something completely different, building a life you love, check out the video training linked in the description below. If you liked this video, hit like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.